13, verses 14 through 16, Jesus washed the feet. But now I've got to let you know what Jesus has said to many others about godly leadership, and so that you know you have a right to celebrate it. First of all, I would say because those leaders that the Lord has chosen have become those of humble beginnings. Oh, Deacon Forbes, I love what you said, brother. You hit the first point right on the head. When the pastor, listen, that's just the way Pastor Stanley called me in his study. He said, young man, I'm looking at you. I think that you'd make a good deacon. Forbes, I said the same thing. No way, Jake. Don't want to be no deacon here. There's too much mess in my life. I don't have things straight. Man, I don't love people right. I don't know how to do anything. You don't need me as no deacon in this church. Jake said to me, young man, that's exactly why I call you. And he said to me, you need to go home and pray about that thing. And before I preached, I was a servant. You see what I'm talking about? Now listen, I am not saying that you graduate from the deacon to preacher. Sometimes that happens and sometimes that doesn't happen. But the point is, God will always show godly leadership those inevitable traits in individuals where that individual can work and bless the church. And when a godly pastor comes to a young man and say, you have certain qualities, you've got to become solidified with those qualities, you need to go home and pray. So if Chairman Forbes is the chairman of your deacon board, you got a good one and God did it right. I'd have problems if the preacher said, Brother Forbes, how much money can you raise for me this year, Brother Deacon? I want you to be my good time Charlie money man. Bring that money in and I'll make you the chairman. Don't work that way. Not in God's world. Because these leaders have humble beginnings. Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. Go there with me, will you please? Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. The leadership in the church has humble beginnings. For Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. These are the ones who recognize total dependence upon God. Their spiritual poverty sets them apart from those that think that they are on a spiritual high horse. You see, folk in true spiritual leadership realize first and fundamentally that God starts them with humble beginnings. You don't look for that deacon that has the biggest car and the biggest paycheck. You look for that deacon that has the biggest heart to get the work done. Humble beginnings, my friends. God is not concerned about how big you are. He's concerned about how much you can do in servanthood for Him. Now stay in Matthew and go to Matthew chapter 11, verse 29. Matthew chapter 11, verse 29. We're saying because those leaders that the Lord has chosen have become those of humble beginnings. Jesus puts it this way: take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. So Jesus says if you want to be the right kind of deacon and deaconess, you've got to take his yoke upon you. You don't bring your yoke and burden the church with that mess. You done crucified you, and you've taken his yoke, and then you can do his work. Pastor John, what is it, my young brother? I've been in the church 14 years. Indeed you have. Taken up space every day of the week. Well, I think that I've achieved. Well, yes, you have. You have a bachelor's degree in economics. You're driving a fancy Lexus. You're living in Rose Hills or Fox Hills or whatever them hills are. They're rolling. You're living there. You have achieved. But what is the manner of this conversation? Well, Pastor John, you haven't been looking at me. Oh, I've been looking at you, all right. You have achieved and everything, but you haven't learned of him. What do you mean? Your relationship with your wife is shot to hell. You stay out all night long. You go out with the fellas. You have no regard for her nor your children. What are you coming to me for? Well, I've been here I don't care if you've been here 40 years. Have you learned of him? You see, my friends, if the text has meaning at all, Jesus says, for I am meek and lowly of heart, you need to come and learn of me. You see, when Jake called me to be a deacon, and when my wife was called a deaconess, and she's still serving as a pastor's wife, she's still, in essence, in her heart, a deaconess. She would be a deaconess till she dropped dead. When she becomes a pastor's wife, she didn't graduate up to that level. Oh no, my friends, when you become the pastor's wife, that means you got more work to do. Where's Sister Matoya? Where's she at? Where's she at? What? There she is. There she is. Oh no, she don't be walking around here with her hands up high like this. Oh no, she's walking out here and saying, give me a towel too. I mean, I'm supposed to be involved in this. The pastor's wife should be one of the busiest deaconesses in the church. But now what we do to them today is we give them a seat on the corner of the pew, and when everybody come in and see that hat flashing, they know everything's all right. Ooh, my goodness. My friends, OBJ, you know I love you. There is less anxiety or activity in ministry when you have humble beginnings. You see, when you have these humble beginnings, you aren't anxious anymore. Because you see, you've learned of Jesus. You do it his way. Because of who Jesus is, your life manifests a peacefulness. Oh, a board of deacons full of peacefulness. Oh, a deaconess board when love is just shrouded. Everybody loves everybody. No, come on by my house. No, sister, come on by my house. Oh, when one deacon says, I want to pray, and he said, no, I don't want to pray today. You pray, brother. I love to hear you pray. Listen, I held hands with the deacon boards, my deacons and your deacons. And we held hands and they prayed, and I said, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. You see, the preacher subjected himself to the prayer of the deacon. At that time when the man of God was speaking, the preacher just becomes somebody else that is going to get down and let the Lord work. Yes, Lord is the way it's done. My friends, when you have spiritual leadership, something happens magnificent in a church. Now, stay in that book called the B-I-B-L-E. Turn to Mark chapter 9, if you will. Mark chapter 9, verses 33 through 35. Mark chapter 9, verses 33 through 35. We're learning about these humble beginnings. And they came to Capernaum. And when he was in the house, he began to question them. What were you discussing by the way? But they kept silent. And when you look at this, for on the way that they had discussed with one another, which one of them should be the greatest. And sitting down, he called the 12. And he said to them, in other words, he had them preachers with him. Oh, Lord, listen to me. In the 20th century church today, when you got a preaching staff, which one of us is going to be closer to Pastor John? Which one will be the mentor that he mentors, that he will put to the heights? Which one is it? Who is it? I want to be it. That's why I gave you the scripture. Humble beginnings, my friends, because I read in the text. Jesus said, if anyone wants to be first, he shall be last of all and servant of all. He says, put your arm out if you want to be first. Put that towel on there. Let me see you work a good 20 years, and then you have the right to be first. I'm telling you, my friends, if you want to know what spiritual leadership is, Jesus says that you have to have humble beginnings. Now listen, I've got to talk about myself. Because some folk think I've been preaching all my life. No, my friends, I've only been the senior pastor for 7 years. But I've been saved for 27 years. And I want to tell you something, friends. I've been working in the body, Olivet, for 27 years. So that means for 7 years I was a senior pastor, and for 20 years I worked. So if you want to be great in God's house, get to work here in Calvary without a position. Then when you look at those deacons that have a position, you will understand what it takes to lead a mighty organism called the body, called the church.